Hi, I'm Greg.
Hi, I'm Will.
And welcome to our next episode of Theme Parks and Patents.
Today we're talking about the original concept for Radiator Springs Disneyland.
Okay, so I've been wanting to do this one for a while. I found Disney did 3 patents between 2008 and 2011 on this racing car simulator. And that's when they were developing Cars Land. I think it was announced like in 2007 or 2008. And it was completed in 2012, I believe. So what I'm curious to know, I don't know for sure, but based on these patents, I don't think they would have went and got 3 patents if it was something they weren't going to use. And it's a very test tracks type drive system still, but just with a little bit of difference. And I'm thinking that this was something they wanted to do, but then they ended up just doing a basic test track where there's 2 different lanes. So basically a double test track is how Radiator Springs exists today. So any thoughts on the ride?
Not really. All I can see from the patent is that there's going to be a little bar in between the cars that makes them go.
Yep.
Also, how long is this video going to be?
Not that long.
Okay.
Do we need a break?
No.
Okay. Do you need something else to do?
No.
Reading material?
No.
Okay. So this is still, so we're going to put the pan up here. So the test track is a slot car type ride, but the car actually does ride on a road. You know, they've built above what they call the bogie that powers it from underneath through a bus bar. And so the tires actually do run and support the vehicle, you know, from downward gravitational forces. So this would be very similar, like a slot system. If you see, we'll go to figure 1. It would still be a slot car system, but the cars would not be touching the road. And so it would be more of like a traditional roller coaster, and we'll get into that. The pictures further down below kind of show more of that system where you're almost on a roller coaster track. So it has a little a pedestal that comes up from a bogie. The bogie supports you underneath and drives it. And then you're going to have a support, and you're going to have 2 cars on the support. And they can rotate on the support, and the support can rotate on the pedestal relative to the bogie. And you can see that in figure 2. So what makes this interesting is that would create a real kind of simulate. You'd be able to simulate racing between the 2 cars. And when we start with figure 2, you can see when they start to turn them. So we'll go to figure 3. All the figure 3s kind of show the different positions from what it looks like either from a top view or a back view of the cars. So in figure 3A, you know, you could start out where you're chasing the car in front of you, and then as you go through the figures, figure 3C, you can see like they would start rotating that support bar, and the cars would also rotate, so you would be facing directly forward. And then figure 3E, you can see how you could come along, simulate, you know, as you're driving on the bogie a certain speed on the roller coaster track, you would come up, and then 3G, you would come side by side. So you could really do some interesting racing concepts with this, you know, where you have the cars kind of bouncing back and forth and passing each other. And they wouldn't just be going, you know, there would have to be some rotation, you know, you'd be rotating around each other, but it still could be pretty wild, especially if it kind of interacted with the scenery. I don't know if they'd ever be able to do it, but if you almost had something in your way and the 2 cars had to go in line, you know, to be a shorter width so you could miss, you know, any part of the scenery where the track narrowed up.
Also, I figured out why I always yawn in our videos.
Why?
Because I get bored when you're just talking and talking.
Well, then you can talk.
No.
Okay.
I don't know what to say.
Figure 4, 5, and 6, they show you how you could do this with a bunch of gears. And so the gears would turn, and this would also give you your turning on the cars automatically. They also talk about the cars could turn independently, and that's shown a little down below. Figure 5 actually is a better shot of the roller coaster track. So you can see how this is not, unlike test track, you know, the wheels are in the air. So I'm wondering if that's one reason they didn't do this, because it would look a lot more fake. You know, if you imagine when you see Radiator Springs racers, the cars are driving by, the wheels are on the track, they actually have tires, they have to replace the tires wear out. So it looks like real driving. This, with the way this works and with the way the cars kind of swivel back on that support bar back and forth, you can't really have the wheels exactly on the ground. I guess you could have them close, but it would be a little more fake in that sense, that they wouldn't seem like they're actually driving on a road. And then underneath the cars, you can see there's kind of a roller coaster track. There's 3 wheels to support 3 wheels. Wheel. To support, up, down, from down forces, up forces, and then side. So more like a typical roller coaster. This thing just hangs in the air and can swing back and forth. And Will's getting bored, so we're gonna hurry. Figure 7 shows them kind of back to back. Interesting, these cars kind of look more like test track cars even. So that's kind of why I think this was something they were thinking about doing. And then they just have some other ride concepts with the same idea, whether you be like in roller coaster chairs.
That kind of looks like the Harry Potter ride, kind of.
Yeah, but then there's 2 of them, so you could swing. So that would be like someone below you, and then on these, like figure 12, they're side by side, up and down.
Oh, that could be soaring. They could have used that for soaring.
Yeah. Or you could have little like kind of spaceship cars on.
Yeah, they could totally. Or that one that looked like Harry Potter, that would totally have been for like soaring.
Basically, they're just showing any sort of rotation, whether it's like a Ferris wheel or, figure 15, 16, 17, and 18. Just kind of shows all the way you could have 2 separate cars with people in them, and then it would rotate. And so figure 19, 20, and 21, this is where they're talking about where the cars could rotate. They would rotate together on the support bar in the middle, and then they would also, on the ends of the support bar, be able to rotate by themselves. And they say, they could turn you out, like in 19, to a projection or a part of a dark ride. So if you imagine, like, if this was the Cars ride where you go meet Frank, you both could be pointed to Frank, and then
Who's Frank?
The big combine that attacks you at the end. Isn't his name Frank?
Oh yeah.
Figure 20, they said, they could push you face to face. So when you came out of like the paint or the tires before you race, it was like a face off before you go race. And then also in figure 21, it shows where, that they could turn you away from each other. So you could be watching, screens or dark ride, something else. But this is just the idea of having them independently rotate. So the first car could rotate independent of the second car. Most of the concepts up above, I think the cars would rotate, especially where it's geared. The cars would rotate together in the same amount. This is a really interesting concept for the racer ride. So, instead of having 2 separate tracks that run at different speeds to give you the racing effects, that you would just be on one track going the same speed, but then you would have that support bar rotating the cars relative to each other, like in figure 2 and then all the figure 3s, to create a racing type feel between the 2 cars. And I think it would have been a really fun ride, but that's obviously something they didn't do. But this, we'll call it the lost Radiator Springs racer concept that didn't make
Maybe
it.
it could be on a spring, so that if they need to jerk you back into place, the spring would go.
Yeah.
Radiator Springs. Dude.
But you imagine if you're driving, it'd be like if you're going pretty fast down this roller coaster track, and then you would, you're straight behind the car in front of you, like in figure 3A. How cool it would be to come as you would feel your car like you're making a pass on a highway.
It's not a roller coaster.
But it would be like a roller coaster track, so you could go pretty fast. You would feel your car swing out like you're doing a pass on a highway, and then pass the car in front of you. That'd be a pretty crazy racing type ride. So would have been fun. It's too bad they didn't do it this way, but the ride the way it is now is a lot of fun too.
But they need to add more show scenes, like with, how they said with the tournament of show scenes and stuff.
Yeah.
They could have done something like that.
Maybe. There's still a lot of indoor show in it. It's a pretty good ride. But that's all I had on this one. They have 3 separate patents for it, all with patent claims. This idea of having the 2 different cars that turn on the support bar, whether it's together or they can turn independently as well. They talk about it in the claims. But interesting to look at this, and it does look like they were thinking about doing this for Radiator Springs racers. So some history of what they went through as far as ride concepts before just defaulting back to test track is what they ended up with. So anyway, Do you want to sign us off if you're done yawning?
Wait, you didn't stop recording?
No, you're supposed to sign us off
Like,
nicely.
bye.
Say more than that.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Thanks for joining.